Hey, this is Scott, and today we're taking a look at the image quality of the Tamron 150-600mm f5-6.3 G2 telephoto lens. If you're looking for a very strict and scientific test, this isn't it. But I did put the lens into a number of different situations, lighting, etc., and I hope to show you how it performs in real life. Be sure to check the video description for a link to download most of these files if you want to check them for yourself at full resolution. If you want to skip ahead to any section of this video, feel free to check the timeline in the video description. I processed these in Capture One Pro, but I didn't apply any additional sharpening and turned off all of the lens corrections. I did try these out with the 1.4 and 2x teleconverters as well, and there were a lot of challenges that came along with that combination, and I'll get more into that in the full review, so there's not a whole lot of image quality tests using those. First off, let's get into sharpness. I'm not going to get too hung up on it because I don't think that's necessarily the most important thing when you're choosing a lens, and especially not this one. But I will run through some shots at a few different apertures and a few different focal lengths, so I'll let you be the judge of how well it performs depending on your standards. I will say that 600mm is not the strongest point, but I personally didn't hesitate to shoot wide open at 600mm when I needed to. I have seen sharper, but I've also seen much worse. Looking at some real life shots all taken wide open, when you nail focus it was satisfyingly sharp, for me at least. While the lens hood is quite large, I definitely recommend you use it because without it, pointing this anywhere near the general direction of the sun causes some really intense flare. Towards the longer end of the focal length, it just totally washes out the entire image, but towards the middle and the shorter focal lengths, you'll see some really intense ghosting as well. When the clouds are covering the sun though, it didn't seem to be much of an issue. What you won't see though is chromatic aberration. This lens seems to handle it incredibly well at any focal length, and I really haven't been able to find any in any of the shots that I've taken. Vignette isn't all that bad either, and it does clear up pretty fast. Although I don't think most people are going to want to have to stop down the aperture on a lens that already starts at 6.3 at 600mm. For me and most people, the vignette probably won't be much of an issue when you're actually shooting with this lens though. I'll throw in a handful of shots here taken with the 1.4 and 2x extenders, where you can see things like sharpness and vignetting, but they were a bit difficult to test with this lens in particular, and I'll go more into that in my final review, but you should get at least some idea of how they hold up. I think that using the 70-200 would be a much better and more practical test of these extenders. Bokeh is another thing that can definitely be subjective, but I personally didn't mind it on this lens at all. At least in the photos that I shot, it was never distracting or overly busy, especially when shooting on the longer end of the focal length. The colors and contrast seemed pleasing to me, and although I don't have anything to compare it to, nothing ever seemed disappointing in that area. So when it comes to IQ, this lens didn't necessarily wow me, but it also never let me down. If I was making a choice for myself whether or not to buy this lens, IQ wouldn't be the deciding factor. I'll get more into the ease of use, the VC performance, focus speed and accuracy, as well as a few other things in my final review, so be sure to check the video description for a link to that when it's ready. I'll put a link to this lens down there as well, so if you're interested in purchasing it or want to know any more information, be sure to take a look at that. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below and I will get back to you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more in the future, and as always, thanks for watching.